What is up, YouTube? We're here with Alex Carmenaty for our NFL Week 14 predictions. Looks like a good week of football. Some big games with some big implications. So let's get right into the video. I hope you guys enjoy. So, Alex, the first game I want to get into is another trashy Thursday night football game. We start with the Patriots versus the Steelers, and it sounds like it gets even worse because it doesn't sound like it's going to be Kenny Pickett either. So.
Yeah, we're expecting a Bailey Zappi and Mitch Trubisky matchup. And that sounds like a horrific matchup that I wouldn't let a grandmother watch. So this is going to be a really bad game. Pittsburgh is a fraudulent 7-4 or 7-5 team, whatever they are right now.
7-5.
And New England is 2-10.
And they just got
So
shut out.
they are, look, again, both teams are pathetic. Kenny Pickett's useless. Mitch Trubisky's probably worse. And the Patriots have been on such a losing streak this season. It's longer than my family's fingernails, basically combined. So that's how bad Patriots are playing. So at the end of the day, look, I think you go at Pittsburgh. Mitch Trubisky doesn't have to be Ben Roethlisberger. He doesn't have to be, a great quarterback in this game. All he has to do is be competent. And sure, that's kind of hard to ask for from Mitch Trubisky. But going against this Patriots team, I'd put out the Rutgers football team right now
I think
against
for
New England.
I think for him to have to come in and start a game, this is the perfect matchup for him to potentially have to do that. Just against
Oh,
such a
sure.
really mediocre, well, not mediocre anymore, to be honest, just a beyond awful team. It's not even mediocre with the
Uh,
Patriots. It's just
no,
horrendous.
yeah, no, they're not good. Mac Jones has been an utter failure this year, especially, and there's only so much Bailey Zappi can do as a backup. And not just that, the offense is just out of sync. The defense has not been good at all.
Yeah.
Bill Belichick has not been, the same Bill Belichick we've been seeing for years. And on the other hand, for Pittsburgh, look, Najee Harris has been improving. This offense has been a little better as these games have gone on. Now, sure, they've had some setbacks too, especially with that loss to Cleveland and last week's loss to Arizona. Even though the
Yeah.
game got delayed, you still lost to the Cardinals. Look, this Pittsburgh team is just not good, nor is New England. So, in a very bad matchup, in a crapshoot game, you go at Pittsburgh, and if Pittsburgh doesn't win this game, it proves how fraudulent they really are that they can't even beat these sorry New England Patriots. So go with Pittsburgh, but honestly, don't be surprised if something wacky happens.
Yeah, I'm gonna take Pittsburgh, but I'm not a Trubisky guy, never have been, don't trust him. You saw last week that the Patriots defense actually played relatively decent. That was the one positive for them. It was a 6-0 game. That shows it's a good defensive game, even though it was
Yeah,
more ugly from both sides. That just shows the downfall of the season of Justin Herbert, the fact that they only put up 6 points. But it also shows a little bit of a good thing for the freaking defense. So maybe the defense gives Trubisky some issue and maybe we see like a 10-7 game. I don't think it's going to be high scoring.
well, look, again, we could see 10-7 or we could see 6-0 or 3-0 for a second straight week
Yeah.
where, really, if the Chargers only needed 2 field goals to win that game, why can't the Steelers just get 1 field goal to win that game? And all you need from that is Najee Harris to have a good, quarter or good portion to begin the game. You
Yeah.
kick your field goal, then you just play defense from there. So
Yeah.
that's probably all they're going to need
Use
to
your
win
two
this
running
game.
backs. Yeah.
Yeah, look, again, this running game for Pittsburgh is going to be more than enough to win this game. On top of the fact that the Steelers' defense has to get pressure to Bailey Zappi, force picks, which the Patriots have been king at turning the ball over this season.
Yeah.
So it's a really simple game
Yeah.
plan for the Steelers.
It's
The
also worse,
question
even
is,
worse for the Patriots, by the way, because I don't
yeah,
think they're going to have Stevenson this week. I think he got hurt.
well, yeah, he did, and then again, on top of all of this, again, the question is, can the Steelers actually be competent in their game plan and how they play this game?
Yeah.
So I think they're going to somehow win this game, but who knows if they somehow blow it and they lose 9-6
Yeah.
or some by some wacky score or
Yeah.
whatever. So regardless, Pittsburgh is going to win. It's just how Pittsburgh actually does win this game.
Yeah.
That's the big question.
If anybody watches this video and was at that Chargers Patriots game last week, I'm so sorry for you.
Oh my goodness, what a waste of money and time.
Yeah. But yeah, I think Steelers win this one. Let's move on to the better window of games past Thursday night football, and that's a game that we should not have to be paying for. Um, we got the first 1 o'clock game on Sunday. A game where you're probably like, you know who's gonna win. But with how he's been playing, with how Fields has been playing lately, this game gets a little more excited. We got Lions Bears. What do you got on this one?
Well, look, the fact that Detroit only won by 5 last time and Justin Fields led a pretty good effort versus Chicago in the last matchup in Detroit tells you that the Bears aren't completely out of it. Now, if my memory is correct, the Bears had a double-digit lead over Detroit in
Yes, they
that
blew it
game.
in like the final 5 minutes, I believe.
And sure, they blew it in those final 5 minutes. But for the Bears to be up by so much in that sense, and for Detroit having to crack, scratch and claw their way back to win that game, that tells you how much of a challenge Chicago was in a big turnaround midway
Yeah,
through the season. So I think Detroit wins. I think you'll see them season sweep the Bears. But if Chicago only lost by 5 and they blew a double-digit lead, I mean, that shows how Detroit really has to give their full A game. They can't take Chicago lightly.
yep,
And I think the Bears, if they somehow win this game, they're going to expose Jared Goff. They're going to really take advantage of their weak spots and their injuries on their defense. And at the same time, Justin Fields is just going to build that connection even more with DJ Moore.
yep,
So you're going to see Chicago play a pretty good game. But I think in the long run, I think the run game between Montgomery and Gibbs, I think
yeah,
Amon-Ra St. Brown has been really phenomenal all year, especially the past couple of weeks where they've turned things around since a couple of bad losses.
yep.
Um, I mean, he's going to be a standout. Williams is going to be a standout. Sam Laporta has been remarkable all
Oh
season
yeah,
long. So look, I mean, Detroit has the pieces, and they're most likely going to win this game. It's just Jared Goff has to limit his turnovers. And now they were in a shootout with New Orleans last week, but Jared Goff still the past couple of weeks has had some turnover struggles.
yes,
So Jared Goff has to limit those turnovers. If they do that, they're going to win this game no matter what. But the offense has to be in sync on that front. And then for the defense, you got to be able to contain Justin Fields. Now,
yep,
I'm not sure how they're going to be able to do that completely. I think Justin Fields will play a good game. I think he'll find DJ Moore, maybe Cole Kmet for a touchdown or two.
yep.
But I think at the end of the day, Detroit's going to pull it out, but it's not going to be so one-sided. I think Chicago's going to give them a really good fight. And honestly, we could see them win by a 5-point score or a 3-point score or a 7-point score. Detroit wins this game, but
Yes.
not by double digits.
Yeah. I agree. Detroit wins this game, but I do think it's going to be a very competitive game. Look, Chicago has to realize that this is their last shot if they really want to try to have a shot at the postseason. If they lose this in a 4-9, they're done. If they win this, they're a game out of that playoff spot, and there's still a little bit of a
Which
glimmer
is
of
still
hope.
crazy.
Yes. So if you're Chicago, you know they're gonna go out there, put their hearts into that, try to win. Not only, I mean, this is a huge thing for them because they're trying to give themselves a little shot at the playoffs, and they get a freaking division matchup. I feel like, I mean, would you probably say, I don't know, it's hard. Would you say between the two in the division, two matchups between Packers Lions or Lions Bears, which is the bigger? Would you say the Pack? Those have to be the two biggest matchups in the division if you look at those.
Oh yeah, for sure. I
So
mean, look, I mean, the Packers more realistically, not just saying because I'm a Green Bay fan,
yeah,
but they've been on fire. I'm very impressed with Jordan Love. I'm very impressed with this Packers offense recently,
yeah.
and
Oh,
I'm
I'm
especially
specifically talking
impressed.
like the biggest of the matchups, typically, like
Oh, I know.
that.
Yeah,
Then yeah,
yeah. And again, I think it's Lions Packers because of how good the Packers have been recently.
yeah,
And look, I mean, sure, I mentioned the offense already, but the defense has been so stellar. And this Packers defense has really gotten them over the hump in big situations, especially when getting pressure
yeah.
to the quarterback. So I think Packers Lions big time. When we also look at the fact that the Packers just won the last game, and I'm not saying the Packers somehow make a run and win this division, but let's say the Packers somehow win this division. They have the tiebreaker over Detroit if need be
Yeah.
with the Thanksgiving victory. So, look, I mean, it makes it more competitive
Do you
as
guys
these
play
two.
them again?
No,
Okay.
we don't. But I mean, it's still a big, tug and forth back where we're playing Minnesota twice the rest of the season. We got Chicago one more
You
time.
could literally knock the Vikings out
We
yourselves.
could.
Yeah.
We could. But again, if Detroit, struggles or if they barely win games or if they're still having their problems on the offense with Jared Goff's turnovers and that cost them a game or two, that gives the Packers a big break and life, not just to be a wild card team, but maybe win that division.
Yeah.
So who knows how it's going to pan out. But at the end of the day, I mean, Detroit needs to win this game.
Yes.
Sure, Chicago's somewhat of a threat, but the biggest threat they face right now is Green Bay. No question about it.
Yeah.
The Packers are right behind them. And that Packers Lions duel for whoever gets a wild card or division winning, spot could become more realistic and
Yes.
could be more of a serious, battle if the Packers keep going and the Lions, struggle to win some games.
Yeah. No, 100%. I think, look, you gotta, as you said, you gotta rely on you with the struggles of Goff right now. You gotta rely on the run game a lot against this Bears team and keep Laporta and St. Brown involved.
Yeah.
I think this is a game where you've seen the last couple weeks a little bit of his play decrease. You need to get what's his name Gibbs back involved again. The last few weeks he's definitely dipped a little bit in his
Yeah.
play, and they've used him less. It's been a lot more of the Montgomery show again, like it was to start the season. He's done stuff, but and I'll say because it had my dad screaming in the basement. Gibbs had a massive run within like the 5 yard line or whatever, and they don't give it back to Gibbs. They let Montgomery run it in. Like so, like that. I just feel like I think in my opinion, and we've talked. I don't know if I've said this to you. If a guy has that big of a run for you, you should try to let them get into the end zone. Give them one shot at least.
Oh, of course. Look, I mean, I don't have a problem with it, but let's also keep in mind, David Montgomery is the glue to this running back game.
Yes.
Now, Jahmyr Gibbs is solid. He's played great. He's been phenomenal. He's been a great 2 to Montgomery's 1. That's what you ask for,
Yeah.
and you've got more than you can ever expect from
Yes.
Jahmyr Gibbs this season so far. But let's keep in mind, it's still David Montgomery's show.
Yeah.
Now, I agree there should be more flexibility. I think that helps the Lions win more of these games. But Montgomery's coming off an injury, and they pay him all the money for the main reason to be that main running back guy. So he's the guy who should be getting most of these carries.
Yeah.
So Gibbs is going to be in the spotlight, and he's going to make his moments. And if it's third and goal, maybe you use him for a goal line stand or third and short or whatever, and make sure you keep the drive going. That's where Gibbs comes in.
Yeah.
But on first down, second down, when you need points
Montgomery.
desperately,
Yeah. Yeah.
David Montgomery's your guy. And look, it's great that Gibbs is doing great things, but he's Robin and Montgomery's Batman.
Yeah.
And Batman always has the spotlight.
Yeah. No, you're right. You're right.
So,
But yeah, I definitely think they win this. It's gonna be close though, and I think you have to rely on Montgomery a lot against this Bears team. I wouldn't be shocked if this is maybe even an overtime game. I'm not
no,
gonna.
yeah,
I would not be shocked.
not at all.
Um, we move into another battle of backup quarterbacks. Sad to see for the Jaguars. We got Jaguars versus Cleveland. What do you got on this one?
Well, the fact that Trevor Lawrence got hurt is a horrible scene for the Jaguars, and even worse, they lost to a backup quarterback for the Cincinnati Bengals in that same game.
Yeah.
So, look, I mean, who knows what's going to happen here? This is going to be really intriguing. I think Jacksonville is going to pull it off because Cleveland is just pathetic on the
Just so
offense.
we know, we got Bethard versus Joe Flacco. That's what we got.
Oh, my goodness gracious. I mean, if you take away Colin Kaepernick and somehow CJ Beathard was on that 49ers team, this would be a rematch of Super Bowl 47.
I know.
But look, I think first of all, the fact that Joe Flacco is a Cleveland Brown after being a legendary Baltimore Ravens quarterback
I
is
know,
nuts.
it's kind of crazy.
That is nuts. But that shows how Father Time has really caught up with old Joe.
Yep.
I mean, again, this is tough because Joe Flacco's not Joe Flacco in 2012. He's far from that. And then CJ Beathard has always been a backup quarterback, and sometimes he's been good, and you've really gotten success from him. And then there are times where he's been awful, and it's been a complete disaster. So, I mean, knowing Joe Flacco and his previous experience, you kind of lean with him. But at the same time, Jacksonville is just so much more talented offensively. CJ Beathard doesn't have to be the guy. They can
Yeah.
get ETN involved again. They can somehow, get Christian Kirk involved
He
with
got
Beathard
hurt. He's
not
not
having the
playing.
ball.
He's not
Oh
playing,
no,
Kirk.
he's
So
not. Okay. So look, this is tough. And in that sense, you're gonna have to rely on some guys who A haven't been out there, B who really aren't your number ones or number twos. I mean, Jacksonville's a mess right now. And honestly, Cleveland's been playing this way for the past couple of weeks. Defense and special teams.
yeah.
And that seems to be winning for the Browns. Now Jacksonville is going to have to
Last
adjust
two
to
weeks it
that
hasn't, but
mindset. Look,
that
I mean, sure, it hasn't worked the last 2 weeks, but when they beat Pittsburgh, and the fact that they have 7 wins is because of defense and special teams. Thanks to Dustin Hopkins and Myles Garrett, who could be Defensive Player of the Year right now. So it's worked, maybe not recently, but it's gotten them in a playoff situation without Deshaun Watson. So
yeah.
at the end of the day, look, this is going to be a game where it's going to come down to defense. It's going to come down to special teams. If Joe Flacco has a great game, that's phenomenal for Cleveland. I'm not expecting that for CJ Beathard. So out of all this rambling and all of this jazz that I've been talking about, I'm going to go with the Browns. And I'm saying the Browns because of the defense and the special teams. And this is a gift for Cleveland. Really, really is. I mean,
Right when they're
they're not going to catch
struggling, they get a backup.
they're not going to catch up to Baltimore. But at the same time, they're really trying to just get in. And their win over Pittsburgh was very, very helpful. But even with the recent losses, and Pittsburgh now at 7-5, and Pittsburgh having to give this week to most likely go 8-5, Cleveland has to win this game somehow. And with Trevor Lawrence out and CJ Beathard being the quarterback, they have a real option to do that.
Yeah.
My thing is, Myles Garrett is going to have a field day with CJ Beathard.
Yeah.
And if Garrett just goes off all over the place, that's going to be enough. And all you need for Dustin Hopkins to do is kick a couple field goals. Maybe you get one touchdown here or there on the ground or in the air somehow.
Yeah.
You score somehow for Cleveland offensively. Garrett does his thing and field goals for Dustin Hopkins. You're going to win this game.
Yes.
So I'll go with Cleveland based on that. And you know what? I'll give good old Joe Flacco a good chance here. Let's
Yeah.
say Joe Flacco throws for one touchdown. I'll give old Joe that. And I think if he throws for one touchdown and has a clean game, that will be a good benefit for
Yeah.
Cleveland as well. So give me the Browns here.
Yeah. I'm gonna take the Browns as well. Look, I just think over the years we've seen like a constant black cloud of negativity over the Jaguars. When something's going right, it doesn't last. Something ends up screwing them over. This time it's the Trevor Lawrence injury. This season was going great. They were playing well. Now we have no clue how long Lawrence is out. So look, in a battle of Beathard versus Joe Flacco, I do have to go with Joe Flacco in that one. I just think in that situation they also have no Christian Kirk. I just don't think. Look, yes, you have Ingram, you got Zay Jones, you got ETN, but it's really going to be hard to keep up with some of those guys like Jerome Ford and Cooper and those guys. And I think, as you said, Myles Garrett is going to crush Beathard, in my opinion. I would not be surprised if he has 3 to 4, like 3 sacks on him. I would not.
Well, look, I mean, again, that's going to be the key. And if Beathard is consistently under pressure, Ingram, Jones, whoever else you want to name, they're not going to get any opportunity to shine.
Yes.
But Jacksonville is going to have to rely a lot on Travis Etienne. And
Yes.
sure, he's had some great moments to begin the year, but he has, kind of stepped back the past couple of weeks.
Yes.
So you need him to really be on his A game. And for Jacksonville, if they want to just hold on, if they want to, hold on for dear life and maybe somehow still get the one, they're going to have to rely a lot on old school running football, and that
Yes.
comes through ETN. But the problem is it's Miles Garrett this week,
Mm.
and it's a very strong Cleveland Browns defense he's going against.
Yes, I have two things I want to say before we move on to the next game. I was saying it to a few people the other day. I think this is the opportunity they need, and they take it. I think the Texans win this division now.
Yeah,
Um, but you look at the AFC playoff picture and listen to this. These are the quarterbacks of the teams in the AFC playoff picture. Tua Tagovailoa, Lamar Jackson, a struggling Pat Mahomes, CJ Beathard right now, uh, Mitchell Trubisky because we don't know the status of
Pickett.
Pickett. We
Yeah.
got Joe Flacco, Gardner Minshew, and CJ Stroud. What is that playoff
Wow.
picture? That is the playoff picture of the AFC right now.
Well, look, I mean, Lamar to even with Pat Mahomes struggling, those are three classic names, and those three teams are easily the favorites. But CJ Stroud has been, for my money, rookie of the year. And
I
with
think
how good he's
Stroud could
playing,
beat any of those teams. It may be not the Ravens, but I think Stroud could beat the Dolphins or the Chiefs.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, I think he could beat Miami. Kansas City, maybe, depends on Pat Mahomes. Look, I mean, sure, he's had a struggling season, but Pat Mahomes turns it up in the playoffs. We all
Yeah,
know that for sure. So maybe, depends how he plays and depends how
yeah,
Stroud, tries to adjust to playing in Kansas City.
yeah,
Baltimore, I mean, the defense, sure. Now, I mean, Lamar needs to just have a good game. Problem
yeah,
is that this Baltimore defense is so good. And they've exposed Seattle. They've exposed Detroit. They've exposed a lot of playoff teams in the NFC, especially.
yeah,
So for Baltimore, look, I mean, sure that might be the toughest challenge, but for CJ Stroud, look, I mean, he's had a great year. I think he's a candidate for the MVP this year
yeah,
as well, not just rookie of the year.
yeah.
But look, if he's able to make somewhat of a run, and let's say he gives Lamar or Pat or Tua, whoever, a fighting chance, and maybe he wins that game somehow.
Yeah.
I mean, that is that is more than you can ask for. So who knows what's going to happen? But yeah, with Jacksonville having the injury, and with Houston being right behind them, and sure, Jacksonville just won the most recent game between the two. They have the tiebreaker if need be. But for Houston, I mean, CJ Stroud, I mean, this is a really golden opportunity for him and the Texans to get back in first place
Yeah.
and to win this division overall. So
No,
look, I mean, who
100%.
knows? We'll see what happens.
Yeah. All right, we move on though because we have taken a little while with these first three games. We move on to two games that don't need a lot of covering. Um, Panthers Saints. What do you got on this?
All right. Just go with the Saints. I mean, whether it's Jameis Winston, whether it's Derek Carr, if Drew Brees comes back from retirement, if it's Ron Kaplan, I don't care who it is. The Saints are going to win this game. Now, Carolina's only win came against Houston. We all know that. Frank
Poor
Reich is
Houston.
gone. Frank Reich is gone. Carolina still stinks. They're an absolute embarrassment. They lost to Tampa Bay again. I mean, I mean, again, just go with New Orleans. They're going to win the game. I'm not sure how they're going to win the game, but they're somehow going to win this game.
Yeah.
And Carolina will continue to be a laughing stock. So just go with the Saints here.
Yeah, I got Carolina in this game again. Obviously, we all know Derek.
Carolina.
Sorry, no, sorry, New
I was going to
Orleans.
say,
Sorry.
Jason. Whoa.
Sorry. I got New Orleans. We all know Derek Carr though went down again
Yeah,
for the 20th time this season. Derek Carr got
literally.
banged up.
Yep.
You know what? I will actually say this. It might be for the better if they're trying to keep their playoff hopes alive. Because I actually have to say, watching those games, Jameis Winston looks better than Derek Carr.
When healthy. Yeah.
Yeah, he's doing more out there. He's the one. When Derek Carr ends up leaving the game, he led them to almost a comeback at the end of that game against the Lions. I mean, he's done that multiple times this season, Winston. I really don't. I honestly think if they're trying to keep their playoff hopes alive, maybe you just go Winston at this point. I mean, Winston's looked better. The offense looks better when he's out there.
Mhm.
So who knows? I mean, maybe they end up going that route. I said it to you last week. Jamal Williams has been an absolute failure there.
Mhm.
Um, so Look, this is going to be probably a very low scoring game. I don't see this being a fun game. Thank God it is on the NFL Red Zone, so we don't got to watch it. Um, but yeah, I'll go Saints in what's probably going to be like a 13-10 game.
I mean, who knows if we'll even get that score? Who knows
Yeah,
what's going to happen? Who knows
yeah, might be
who
being
wins?
generous what I'm giving them.
Well, look, I mean, again, regardless, New Orleans wins this game no matter what. And on top of that, I mean, yeah, Jameis Winston seems to be looking better, like you said. So, I mean, if he can have a good game and keeps the Saints' playoff hopes alive, I mean, this NFC South division is so weird. Atlanta leads it one week, New Orleans leads it the next, Tampa Bay's a game back. I mean, this is the ultimate
Yes,
Russian roulette, roulette. So I just don't know what I'm gonna get.
yeah,
And what I do know is that New Orleans is going to beat Carolina,
yeah,
and if they don't deserve to win this horrible
yeah,
division.
yeah. We move into another game in this division though, and as you just said, they're a game back, and this is actually a big game. Bucks Falcons. What do you got?
Atlanta, Atlanta beat them last time. Atlanta, they're coming off a most recent win. Desmond Ritter has been so back and forth. The Falcons defense is not good. Bijan Robinson's been involved, but not exactly. Look, I mean, I think the fact that it's not that the Falcons are really better is that Baker Mayfield stinks. And for this Buccaneers team, I mean, the defense is not good. Baker Mayfield's awful. He's going back to real life Baker Mayfield, where he's pathetic, he's
The
awful.
superhero
You don't want to
Baker's
watch him.
gone. Yeah.
I mean, I would have called superhero Baker.
The very start of the start of the season for them, he looked like the superhero quarterback that they needed. He would take those big hits, he would run, he would do everything that was needed, and it's just not there anymore. So I
well,
would,
well, 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 of course, because he fizzles out.
yeah,
He flames out every single year. And that's what Baker does. And he's a joke every single year. And the thing is, with Cleveland, he had one good year, then one bad, one good, one bad. Now he's just consistently terrible.
yeah,
And I think with that, all you need is Grady Jarrett, Calais Campbell, this front line to just have a field day with Baker. That will be all you need to win the game. And look, the Falcons just barely beat the Jets. The
yeah,
Jets are awful. And that was a 13-8 final.
yeah,
At the same time, sure, Tampa Bay beat up on Carolina, but we saw what happened last time. Atlanta barely won.
yeah.
So I think we're going to see the Falcons barely win again, and they're going to season sweep Tampa Bay. And honestly, with how back and forth it is, I think the Falcons are somehow going to win this division, and the
Uh,
Saints with Carr or Winston or whoever, they're going to end up folding out and missing the playoffs. So
yeah.
give me the Falcons.
Yeah, I got the Falcons in this one as well, and what's gonna kind of be another boring game. I don't think
Yeah.
it's gonna be a fun one at all. Um, Look, if the Bucks want a shot, they gotta get Mike Evans heavily involved. Um, Overall, neither team's good on offense. I don't know if I could say so much their defenses are great. I just think they've, had some really ugly offensive games even from their opponents. It's not that the defenses are amazing. We'll see. But the question I want before we quickly move on, I don't, I do think Falcons win this game. I think Drake London, Kyle Pitts, those guys have big days for them. If the Bucks somehow win this game, do you think the Bucks take the division?
You mean Atlanta?
No, if the Bucks, because
Oh,
they'd be
okay.
tied. They'd be tied.
If Tampa wins this division, if Tampa wins this game, I don't guarantee that because again, New Orleans is probably going to win this week. New Orleans could be ahead. Atlanta could lose, but then bounce back. Tampa could win this game and then fall back
Yeah,
again.
this
Look,
division's
I
so
mean,
hard to predict.
I, I just don't know who's going to win this division. But if I'm looking at all three teams right now, I'm leaning towards the Falcons, and I just said the Falcons will win. I think they will win this division. But at the same time, second guess myself, saying who knows what the heck's going to happen. So my prediction is the Falcons. But I could be completely wrong, and New Orleans or Tampa could somehow walk away with it.
Yes.
At the same time, I could be right somehow. And if I'm right, then the Falcons just barely get that division.
Yeah.
So it is such a toss up.
All we know is whoever wins this division is going to get killed in the first game of the playoffs.
Yeah, by Dallas.
Yeah. So Good, ugly division, but yeah, I take Falcons in this one. We move into the next 1 o'clock window game, and honestly, you thought maybe with these injuries and another backup QB game, it wouldn't be too good. But them coming up the win last week, Minshew looking good as well. We got the Colts Bengals. What do you got on this one?
Indy,
You got
look,
Indy?
Colts had a big win in Tennessee. Now again, it was back and forth, had to go to OT. Gardner Minshew is looking a lot better as this season goes on, and he's building a lot of connection with Michael Pittman, especially. So you're seeing this Colts team really turn things around. They picked up a big win. They're in a postseason spot right now. And this is a team where every week they give their heart and soul. And sometimes it ends in really bad losses in really heartbreaking fashion, but it ends in a great win. And that was the case versus the Titans last week. So I'm going with the Colts because of how, good Minshew has been recently with his connections with Pittman, Jonathan Taylor being back.
Mhm.
This team looks pretty good offensively. They're putting up points week after week. Look, now the defense, sure, say what you want about it for the Colts, but the offense has been pretty good enough that in some of these games, like in Tennessee, and especially now versus Cincinnati, if the offense has a good game, that should be enough to win. So hopefully the Colts, they can keep it going. I think they're going to win this game. And look, the reason why Cincinnati won last week is because of Trevor Lawrence's injury. That's the only reason
Well,
why.
Jamar Chase had a great game.
He sure did. But still, the injury definitely set things back.
Well,
And
keep
if
in
Trevor
mind he
Lawrence
didn't get
plays,
injured till the final 5 minutes.
I understand that. But still, I I would rather trust more of Trevor Lawrence leading some type of comeback drive with 5 minutes to go or however much they were down by to come back and win that game or make it more competitive. Now, sure, Jamar Chase was great. I'm not going to deny that. But at the same time, look, I see more consistency from a Jaguars offense with a healthy Trevor Lawrence, and I see more consistency with a Gardner Minshew led offense with the Colts than I do with whoever the heck the backup is for the
Browning,
Bengals.
his name is Browning.
Sure, Jamar Chase played great, but if Jamar Chase gets locked down this week, who else do you go to?
T. Higgins, but that's really it.
But T. Higgins hasn't been there a lot this year, even with Joe Burrow healthy.
Yeah.
And Tyler Boyd's been hit or miss.
And
So
even
look,
Tyler Boyd cost him a game against oh my God, who was it against? The Texans when he dropped
yep.
that ball in the end zone. So
So
he has not been reliable at all this year when he is thrown to.
so
So
look, again, the Bengals post Burrow now with this injury for the rest of the season, they're not going to make the playoffs. And sure, Jamar Chase might have played great, and they picked up this win, and Trevor Lawrence got hurt, yada yada yada. But still, it's not going to make that big of a difference with how good the Colts offense has been really all year,
yeah.
even with Richardson getting hurt and Minshew having to fill in. So give me the Colts. I think that they keep their playoff hopes alive. And the Bengals are, they're still in it technically,
Well, if they
but
win this, they're in the spot.
again, they're still in it. But and it is a big game for both teams. But I think for Indy, it's more important because of how resurgent they've been with Gardner Minshew with the Richardson injury. For
Yeah.
Cincinnati, it's only been 1 or 2 games. It's been a very short time without Joe Burrow. So there is more on the line for Indy than Cincinnati because for Cincinnati, sure they're still alive in the race, but their chances are slim to none without having their franchise QB.
Yeah.
So look, give me the Colts. I think they win the game.
Yeah, I'm gonna take the Colts in this one as well. Brandon looked good last week. Chase looked good. Of course, now Joe Mixon started playing really well lately. But I do think the Colts, with are the better team. We said it at the start of the season. I said it to you. Uh, Gardner Minshew's a guy that when he's consistently playing, he is really good. If he
Mhm.
comes in for a game or two, it's really ugly. But he's got it to that point where he's been consistently playing. He looks really good out there. Um, Look, I believe they're still without Jonathan Taylor this week. I don't think he's playing. But you got Pittman, you got Pierce, you got
Mhm.
some guys out there that could really make up for that loss. And this would be a huge, huge win for the Colts because you'd probably put the Bengals in a position where they're 2 games behind you. You got a tiebreaker on them and they can't catch you, probably. So this is honestly a huge win for the Colts if they pull this one off. I do think it's going to be a good game, though. I just mainly because of the situation of the Colts defense. I
Oh
think
no, no,
that's what's going to hurt them.
I don't deny that it'll be a single digit game. But I think with the Colts offense and how they're, I mean, even on paper right now, better than Cincinnati without Joe Burrow, I think the Colts are going to pull it out. And look, the Colts have been in these back and forth fighting games all year
Mhm.
long. I think they'll pull it out. I think
Yeah.
they're going to win. And Gardner Minshew has been a pretty solid replacement right now
No.
when their rookie quarterback gets banged up for the season.
Yeah, no, 100%. But I actually think this is going to be a fun game to watch. I really do. Um, we move into the final game before we start the call, but we got 4 minutes. We got Rams who are playing really well right now
Mm-hmm.
against a really good Baltimore Ravens team. What do you got on this one? Should be a fun game.
Look, that's going to be a really good game, or Baltimore's going to expose them completely. And honestly, I'm leaning towards the Ravens. I'm not doubting how good the Rams are playing. The Rams have been playing phenomenal the past couple of weeks. I'll give them that credit. Don't get me wrong. Matt Stafford back, and with all these guys like Nakua and Atwell and Williams, the whole shebang
Yeah.
on offense has been very good. So I'll give them the credit. But an offense like this, an offense like Detroit, an offense like Seattle, who was pretty good
Yeah.
before falling off, got railroaded by Baltimore,
Yeah.
especially in Baltimore. So with those factors in mind and how Baltimore has exposed playoff caliber teams all year long,
You
I
think
think
another
that's
one's
going to
about to? Yeah.
continue. I think that's going to continue when you have a team like the Rams trying to fight for their playoff lives, just like Detroit is to a certain extent, but especially how Seattle is right now. So we look at, I mean, we saw the Seahawks. They were in, the playoff situation, and they were
Yeah.
even a game ahead of San Francisco
Yeah.
at one point in that division. That embarrassing loss to Baltimore set them completely back, and right now they're outside the
Yeah,
playoff
Geno
picture
Smith's back to what we expected him to be last year.
ever
So,
since the loss to Baltimore. So for some reason, the Ravens have had such a crippling effect on these teams. I think that
yeah.
that's going to continue. Now, I'm not sure if that will last the rest of the season for the Rams. Maybe their run ends. I don't think that that's going to happen. But I think for this week at least, Baltimore is going to take care of business, and not just because of the offense, but this defense is just so dominant at home. So I think they're going to get lots of pressure to Stafford. They're going to make this offense really struggle, and this defense is going to win them this game. And honestly, maybe this is a blowout. Maybe it's close. Maybe it's a 7-10 point game. Who knows how it's going to pan out on the score sheet.
Yeah.
But if Baltimore somehow wins by 30, wouldn't be shocked. So
Yeah.
regardless, give me the Ravens.
I got Ravens in this one. If the Rams want to win this game, they have to figure out a way because he has not been too much the last few weeks. I know he scored a touchdown last week, but you got to get Cup back involved. Cup
Yeah.
has been vanished
Mm-hmm.
these last couple
Oh
games.
yeah.
Um, Kyron Williams, again, that kid has been incredible. He really has. So he's a guy you got to keep involved. We'll see how he does running the ball against Baltimore. But yeah, if the Rams want to win this, they got to get Cup involved. But for now, I'm going Ravens. Like you said, they've exposed every playoff team right now that they've played, and I don't see that changing against the Rams. I really don't. So I will definitely go with the Ravens. Okay, so Alex, we're now on the last game of the 1 o'clock window. We got the Texans against the Jets. What do you got here?
Ah, all right. We got C.J. Stroud and the lovely Tim Boyle. Let me think about this for a second. Oh, that's a simple answer. Go with the Texans. Duh. Yeah. I mean, come on. The Texans are gonna wipe the Jets out of the stadium in their own home stadium. Keep in
Yeah,
mind. And no, CJ Stroud's going to have a day. The offense will be phenomenal. The defense will get so much pressure to Tim Boyle.
yeah,
Tim Boyle's going to be frozen like a real stiff loser. And at the end of the day, I mean, it's over for the
yeah,
Jets. It's over. I mean, it's done. It's
yeah.
done.
So
And
two things I want to bring up before you say what you're gonna say. You've had Simeon for a few weeks. Why are you using Tim Boyle over Simeon?
That is a good question. And look, Trevor Simeon is not, the greatest thing since sliced bread, but
But
he's
he's 10
more
times better.
competent than
Yeah.
Tim Boyle.
That just
And that
shows the
says a
Jets'
lot.
stupidity. That just shows the Jets' stupidity.
Well, look, at this point with the Rodgers injury and with how far they've gotten to this point where they're 4-8 and they're most likely not going to make the playoffs, I think they're realizing, you know what? Just throw Tim out there. The season's over.
Maybe we
We'll
get a
tank
good
for a
pick.
draft pick.
Yeah.
Exactly. We'll tank for a draft pick. We might draft a quarterback with that pick or something else. And you know what? Who knows if what the future looks like? Period. So I think in general they're going to tank. They're going to be awful the rest of the way. That's why Tim Boyle's playing. The Jets are just giving up on the year. They're looking to tank and get a pretty good pick. And with that in mind, they reevaluate the entire scene for next year. And I'll tell you this for sure: Zach Wilson will not be a New York Jet next season. That is for sure.
Yeah.
Zach Wilson's done. And whether Zach Wilson's done or not, the Jets are not winning this game. Houston is going to steamroll them, and it's frankly going to be embarrassing for Gang Green. So
Yeah.
Houston's going to be phenomenal. Stroud's going to go off. The Jets will get pummeled, and that's all.
Yeah.
Zero.
No,
That's
I
it.
don't even have too much to say on this game. Texans just pummel them. I wouldn't be surprised if they put up over 30 on the
Yep.
Jets. I just think it's going to be an ugly, ugly game. And my final question before we move on to the 4 o'clock window for you is, we talked about it that if he's healthy, he's going to play. Do you really at this stage, I said week 16 he'll be back. Do you even rush Rodgers back and risk a bit worse injury?
Look, I mention it week after week that if he came back by now or he came back a couple weeks ago, that it makes sense. But if the Jets just keep on losing, look, honestly, my tone has changed on this. Um, let's say he comes back in week 16. No, it's not worth it. But it's not if the Jets want to play him or not. It's whether Aaron Rodgers is actually going to play. So this is all around Aaron Rodgers, Salah, whoever else you want to name. They have no say in this matter.
Yeah.
If Aaron Rodgers is healthy, he's going to play whether you like it or not.
The thing that scares me, Alex, is he comes back week 16 in a meaningless game, rushed back after, like, 4 months or whatever it was, 3, 4 months on the sidelines with an Achilles injury. Congrats to him because his recovery has been miraculous. You never ever see that quick of a recovery with the Achilles tear. But what happens if he gets hurt again? That's so freaking quick. And the next year's screwed up, and you're in the same hole you were this year as the Jets.
Yeah.
Is it worth it?
Well, look, again, it's not about whether it's worth it for the Jets. It's whether if Aaron Rodgers can be in the spotlight or not.
True,
That's
because
the
if
difference.
you say no to Rodgers, the Jets are in the same place you guys were in with the disgruntled Aaron Rodgers.
Oh, sure. And look, I think regardless of whether we like it or not, I wouldn't be shocked if he does play, and that's going to be his call. We might see him if he's healthy, and I think we could. But at the same time, look, the Jets, if they have any common sense, which is very rare to find in this New York Jets franchise, um, if they have common sense, he probably won't play.
Yeah.
But again, this is such a hypothetical that this this conversation, this question, probably has no meaning to begin with.
Yeah. Yeah, but going back to it, Texans win this game. It's a shame for them. Tank Dell's season seems to be over with that injury. Huge, huge loss for them. But overall, this Texans team blows the Jets out of the water even without Tank Dell.
Yep.
We move into the 4 o'clock window. We got a big division game here, trying to keep their season alive. We got Seahawks Niners. What do you got on this one?
That's a big one, and San Fran's going to have fun. Seattle's just not the same team. And
Yeah.
I'm telling you, we talked about it before. Baltimore clobbered them, and they've not been the same since. And they had a great game versus Dallas last week,
Yeah.
but still lost. And Geno Smith, sure, he had the 3 touchdowns, but a costly turnover.
Yeah.
And at the same time, look, there's only so much that DK Metcalf can do.
Yeah.
And if DK Metcalf ain't getting targeted, then it's not going to work out. But just San Francisco is just so much better. And look, the Niners had their, couple weeks of struggle and all of that, but they're back to where they were to begin the
Look what
season.
they just did to the Eagles. Yeah.
They pummeled the Eagles. And if they can beat up the Eagles like that, then Seattle definitely has no shot to begin with. So it's going to be a McCaffrey field day. The defense will beat up on Geno Smith. Brock Purdy is probably going to have 4 touchdowns again, all San Fran,
It was,
no question
yeah.
about it.
And you're coming off what, and I'm not saying he hasn't been good so far this season, but the first elite week from Debo Samuel.
That, yes, and he's been phenomenal coming off that week. And ever since he's been back in the mix, that's been the key turnaround for San Francisco, especially on the offense. But let's not forget, these two teams played on Thanksgiving, and San Francisco went into Seattle and won 3-1-13. Now Seattle's going to go to San Francisco? Oh, no way.
Yeah.
No way are they going to have a
No,
legitimate
they
chance of winning
ruined
this
their
game.
opportunity. You had to win in Seattle if you were the Seahawks there. You could not afford to lose that game, and they blew it.
And I mean, not just they blew it. That offense was pathetic. I think they only had 1, 2, or 3 first downs in the first half
Yeah,
against San
yeah.
Francisco. So it was just such a bad performance. And look, I mean, again, that Ravens loss really shaked them up, and they haven't been able to bounce back since. And that's why right now they've fallen out of the wild card spot and they're in the hunt rather than being in the playoff picture.
Yeah. So I pretty easily will go to Niners here. I think McCaffrey runs all over them. Uh Look, there's only, as you said, only so much Metcalf's gonna be able to do. It's a mediocre season for Tyler Lockett. He really hasn't done much. Kenneth Walker's been banged up. Geno looks like I said earlier, what we expected him to be last season. And he just had a really good year last year, had a great start to this season, but looks back to himself. So yeah, Brock Purdy and everybody on this Niners offense just steamrolls the Seahawks. We move into the next 4 or 5 game, which is a game that's a little important to both teams just because of the fact that obviously, technically the Raiders aren't out of it because the Chiefs struggles right now. And the Vikings are trying to fight for their playoff lives. So Vikings Raiders, what do you got on this one?
I mean, this one's going to be kind of tough to tell as well, but I'm going with Minnesota. Josh Dobbs is due for a bounce back performance. He's been great to start off, but these last 2 weeks have not been pretty for him nor this Vikings team.
Yeah.
So I think Josh Dobbs is due for a bounce back. I think Minnesota desperately needs a win, and they're going to Vegas, where Vegas, sure, they've been sort of in the mix recently, even with their debacles, but they play Kansas City and they couldn't get that done.
Yeah.
So I think Minnesota has the edge. I think they're going to win the game, and they're going to win the game based off Josh Dobbs. Josh Dobbs has to have a bounce back week. I think he will. And he and Jordan Addison have been forming a remarkable connection when they've been successful. So, look, I mean, the Raiders will try to give it the roll. They'll give it a good effort. Josh Jacobs has been getting a little better, a little more involved, but it
Yeah.
still has not been enough, obviously, to win them ball games. So, with those things in mind, you go with Minnesota. And for Minnesota, their playoff situation is more logistic than Las Vegas's because the
Yes.
Raiders, sure, they're in the hunts,
They have
but
to
they're
win out. They have to win
yeah,
out. Yeah.
they have to win out, and they're not a playoff caliber team, while Minnesota actually is. So
And I think
I go
Jefferson's
with Josh
back for
Dobbs.
Minnesota. I think
Say it again.
I think Jefferson might be back for Minnesota too.
So if he's back, that's even bigger for Dobbs in this offense. So regardless if he plays or not, and if he plays, you definitely give them the edge. But if he doesn't, you still give Minnesota the advantage. I
Yes.
think they'll win the game.
Minnesota wins this game. I don't think I can say they're gonna win it pretty easily just because
Now,
it's Josh Dobbs as quarterback. I think there'll be struggles. We've seen how the last 2 weeks have went after what was an incredible start to his run in Minnesota. It's been a struggle lately. Um, Look, we'll see what happens. I think with both of these teams, we see they two players that have been very big for them, Kirk Cousins, and for the Raiders, Devontae Adams. Probably close to the end of their tenures there, just because I feel like I don't see Cousins re-signing,
mm-hmm.
and I know Devontae Adams is very, very frustrated. Back-to-back years of guys he liked having as his quarterback gone. De Derek Carr gone. And now he enjoyed playing with Jimmy Garoppolo. They messed with that. He's not getting receptions like he had been. We've seen him voice frustration multiple times. I would not be surprised if this is both, the last seasons in there. So I think there's going to be big changes to both of these
Right.
franchises coming up.
And not just that, Devontae Adams almost got traded to the Jets.
I know.
And he would have been back with his old friend, Aaron Rodgers. But guess who's stepping away? Josh McDaniels, the Raiders front office.
Yeah.
So I think this is the final straw that broke the camel's back. You'll see him gone. And for Kirk Cousins, I mean, look,
I
he's had
heard
a
he wants to
great
play
run
with
there.
Tommy DeVito.
Kirk Cousins,
No, Devontae
Monte
Adams.
Adams. Oh my goodness, yeah. Well, it it
Joking,
it.
guys. I'm giving my input here. I'm just being a jackass. Don't worry. That there's no source to that. I'm being an idiot. He does not want to play with Tommy DeVito. Uh-oh. Did we lose him?
Well, honestly,
Oh,
I wouldn't be shocked because he can get all the free meals and the free money and the free, he can get all the free, laundry and free Italian food. And Tommy DeVito's mother can make uh Devontae's bed now. So
yeah,
why
yeah.
not? I mean, but look, I mean, at the same time, it is frustrating. He'll be out soon. Um, for Minnesota, Kirk Cousins, that spot's more interesting, and it's not because Kirk Cousins wants to leave per se. It's more of Minnesota probably moving on and getting younger. And Josh Dobbs seems to be their new guy. Whether he's been struggling or not, he's the guy who's going to be more long term. And now with Cousins especially injured to end the season, I mean, he'll probably go somewhere else. Who knows where he'll go? But yeah, I think it's fair to say that those two guys will definitely be on their way out soon. Adams seems a little more realistic, but again, Cousins could be on his way out as well. It just depends where he goes and if they're committed to Josh Dobbs, which I think they are.
We'll see how Dobbs finishes the season. 4 interception game last time is not a good look though. So we'll see. He needs a big bounce back these next couple weeks. Um, but yeah, I think Vikings win this, but it is going to be a very close game, and uh, I wouldn't be shocked if it's actually a little scary for the Vikings. I would not, to be totally honest. We move into one of the two 425 games. Broncos Chargers. Who do you got on this one?
Denver. Now look, Denver's coming off a tough loss to Houston. Broncos have just been the much better team. Russell Wilson's actually looking pretty good. This offense looks really good. Before the loss, they had 4 or 5 straight wins in a row. I
Yeah.
mean, Denver's season has really turned around in such a dramatic way. So I put all those pieces together, and you got to go with the Broncos. The Chargers have just been
I
pathetic.
mean, you
And
only
sure, they
put
won
the
last week.
Chargers only put up 6 on the Patriots. That just
Well,
sums it up.
exactly. They've been pathetic. And for Justin Herbert, it's been a bad year. For the offense, it's been a bad year. And for Brandon Stanley, I'm not sure how he still has a job.
I don't get it.
If if Brandon Stanley can still be a quarterback in the quarterback, well, I mean, who knows? I mean, quarterback coach, he's a joke to begin with. If Brandon Stanley can be a head coach for the LA Chargers, then why not? Why can't the circus come to town every single year? So it's just been so bad. He's pathetic. So with that in mind, you're going to see a botch game from him. You're going to see the offense for Denver have a good game. The defense will stifle Herbert, and that's all she wrote. Denver's going to win the game.
Yeah, not too much to say on this one. Denver improves to 7-6. Wilson, look, they lost, but they fought to the end. It was a good game. It was a 1 possession game. And even in losing, look, it was a situation of 2 teams that have been playing good lately. One of them had to freaking lose the game. But the Broncos, look, they almost pulled it off again. They were
They did.
just short of it. So
Yep.
I give them credit. They're fighting in every single game, and they almost just got their 6th straight win. But yeah, I do think they get to 7-6 and get a big win in this one. Sutton needs to have a big game. Javonte Williams needs to be good. Their defense has actually been pretty good lately, so I think their defense will help them against a struggling Chargers offense. Their defense, and obviously we know their offense has been good, and they're playing a really bad Chargers defense. So look, everyone said the Chargers shut out the Patriots. We said it last week. It was an example of a bad defense against a bad offense. I don't go by that. They shut it out. A terrible team. So Broncos easily. I think the Broncos pretty easily win this game because has vanished this season. Keenan Allen hasn't done much the last 2 weeks. I think they're really hard, and I would be shocked if they get more than 2 wins the rest of the season, the Chargers. We move into the last 425 game though. Two teams that have been really iffy this year, and you wouldn't have expected that. We got Bills Chiefs. What do you got?
Well, look, I mean, this game is always a good matchup, but it's an Arrowhead. And I'll tell you, with that in mind, KC is going to win it. Now, look, they're coming off a really tough loss to my Packers, and they played phenomenal Green Bay. KC really struggled. But Buffalo has gotten the short end of the stick week after week after week.
Yeah.
And when they lead, and then Jake Elliott hits a 59-yard field goal to force overtime, and then they lose in overtime after getting the ball to begin the
And getting a
period,
field goal, yeah.
and exactly getting a field goal as well. That's the Bills in a nutshell. So the Bills consistently have always had a lead, and they blow it away. I mean that is the history of Buffalo
Or
Bills
they start
football.
off strong and then they have to play. Or they start off losing the game and they have to play catch up.
Yep. So look, I mean, with that in mind, I think Mahomes and company will have a big bounce back at home versus Buffalo. I think they're going to win. And with Josh Allen, now look, he played a good game versus Philadelphia. I'll give him that credit, but he's really struggled a lot, and when he's turned the ball over, it's been bad. So I expect that maybe one or two picks against this pretty good KC defense. I think KC wins regardless, and Mahomes doesn't have to beat Pat Mahomes to win this game. And Josh Allen, if he struggles, that'll be enough for KC to win. So give me Kansas City.
Hey, one thing I will say is that against you guys, the KC defense got obliterated with injuries. It really did.
Yep.
Injury after injury. You guys exposed their defense. Really. You guys, they could not get stops against you guys. So, look, I'm going to go Chiefs just because, look, neither team has been great lately. But the Bills have been significantly worse between the two. Look,
Oh
I
yeah.
will say the Chiefs, despite their record, even some of their wins have not been pretty wins. They've barely won some of those
Oh, of
games.
course not. Yeah. No, of course.
I also feel like that's a Pat Mahomes game in a nutshell. Not his a lot of his games. Look, he figures out all these wacky plays. He's about to fall. He throws the ball in some weird way. None of those games are like really pretty, like good-looking games. There's always some weird stuff involved in a Pat Mahomes game. It's just how his career has been. I'm not taking away that he's an amazing, amazing quarterback, but it's just how he plays. But look, the Bills' defense has been obliterated with injuries too. They'll get a stop and they'll take a stupid penalty. So I have no faith in that Bills team right now. That I don't even think they're gonna make the playoffs. I really don't. I think the playoff hopes are pretty much gone. And obviously the Chiefs are just gonna put the final nail in the coffin on those playoff hopes for them. Look, 6-7's not out of it, but if the Texans, the Colts, those teams win this week like we expect them to, it becomes even harder for the Bills. We move in though to Sunday Night Football, Eagles, Cowboys in Dallas. What do you got here?
That's a big game, and look, Philly has to definitely bounce back. This is a must-win game, a must bounce back game. But as much as I hate saying it, Cowboys are playing good. Dak Prescott has entered his name into the MVP conversation.
Yeah.
Now, I can't stand Prescott. I can't stand the Cowboys. I'm not a fan of Dallas at all. But you got to give credit where credit's due. And last week, they played a heck of a game versus Seattle. And sure, they just pulled it out, but Dak was sensational.
Yeah.
So a lot of it is how Philly's going to bounce back. Now, for some reason, they've struggled in Dallas the past couple of years. When they've gone to Philadelphia, Dallas is the one who's struggled. But for the Eagles, look, you have to bounce back after that
If you
awful
don't,
loss to San
suddenly the
Francisco.
division isn't yours anymore if you lose this game.
Exactly. Not just the division, the one seed period is not yours as a lock.
Yeah.
So for the Eagles, this is a must-win game, and easier said than done. But this defense has to step up. This offense can't be slow in the first half and then expect to bounce back every game in the second half of play. I
That
mean, they
keeps
tried that
happening.
again this
Oh
past
yeah.
week and
Yeah.
it didn't work. Now, look, the Eagles were trailing to KC and Buffalo at half, and they were able to pull around the comeback because KC and Buffalo's defenses and in general have not been consistent. And the offense had some really bad breaks that Philly, got advantage from. So it's gonna be different with Dallas because Dallas' defense is very strong, especially on the front seven.
Yeah.
And on top of that, look, I mean, Jalen Hurts has been great, but there are games where he makes these mistakes. And this Philly offense, again, like I said before, they can't start slow. Dallas, every single game is
Oh, they'll
starting
just
out with a
pile the
big,
points up if you start
yeah,
slow. Yeah.
yeah. They give a straight shot to the mouth to the opponent every time they start on the road or at home. And if that happens this week to begin the game, then Philly's not going to win. Now, look, I mean, I don't know what to expect. This is going to be whoever has the juice, whoever has the momentum. But I'll be honest with you, Jason, from what I've been seeing the past couple weeks and with how Dak Prescott's been so strong,
Hmm.
especially at home, give me the Cowboys. Give me Dak Prescott. I think Dallas wins this game. And this is going to be a real true test for Dallas to see if they're legit and if Dak Prescott is a legitimate MVP candidate for this season.
Yeah.
I think they're going to succeed. And I
Yeah.
say that, you know, but begrudgingly, but I think that's going to happen. I think Dak wins. I think Dallas wins. I think they're going to win by at least 10 points.
Yeah, I got Dallas in this one as well. I think this is going to be a shootout despite how good the Cowboys defense is. I feel like Hertz always just figures out a way to make those plays and score some points. So I would not be surprised if both teams are in the 30s as well in this one. But I think both teams are over 30, but I think the Cowboys reach the 40s. I would
Yeah.
not be shocked. I
Mm-hmm.
would say 40 something to 30 something, I would say is the final
Sure.
score of this game. As you said, they win by 10. I think the Eagles, I don't know. I just don't have a lot of hope right now with the Eagles. Look, yeah, they have the amazing record that they do, but they really figure out a way to vanish in those big games, especially lately. And they're another team. Their wins are not pretty. Their
Yep.
first halves have been so ugly.
Yeah.
I've never seen a 10-2 team struggle in a full half as much as this team.
Right. You're right.
So you're not gonna go for look, if you're in the Super Bowl or the playoffs and you go down you start that bad, I'm sorry. You're not gonna win the game in the
Mm-hmm.
playoffs. It's not gonna
Yep.
happen unless you're playing the Atlanta Falcons.
Right. No, yeah, no, you're right. But yeah,
So look, I think CD Lamb is a big game.
yep.
Uh, he's been a huge pickup for them. I think Brandon Cooks has a big game. Cooks has been huge for them. I will say the Eagles have Dallas Goedert back this week, so that is big for them. Um, but look, overall, I just think right now the Cowboys are the better team. They really are. I can't believe I'm saying that, but I will take the Cowboys in this one. I think it'll be a really fun game. Great 4 o'clock game with Bills Chiefs and a great obviously Sunday night football game. But we move in now to Monday Night Football. We actually got 2 Monday Night Football games. I don't know if you knew that.
Oh no, no, I didn't realize that.
We
Hmm.
got Packers Giants. What do you got here as a Packers fan?
Da 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 da. Go Pack, go! Absolutely, go Pack, go! I've been impressed with Jordan Love. Now look, I mean, you'll call me crazy because one day I love Jordan Love, the next day I can't stand
I
Jordan
feel
Love.
like you've came on here 5 different times
But
with
the
a
past
different
few
Jordan Love
weeks
opinion.
I have, and I probably will for as long as he's the quarterback of the Green Bay Packers. But for right now, when they've won 4 of their last 5, and especially 3 straight, two of them at home,
Mhm.
2 of them on the road in Detroit, and the other versus the defending Super Bowl champions. Jordan Love has looked phenomenal, and he looks calm, he looks cool, he looks collected, he just
Yeah,
looks smooth. He
yeah,
looks really smooth, and that's all you can ask for.
yeah.
So Jordan Love looks great and he's building more connection with Christian Watson, which I love to see and what you need to happen for this offense. I
Although
mean, this
Watson
offense
got hurt.
has been so strong. And now, sure, he got banged up, but he's still building connection with Romeo Dobbs. He's still building a strong connection with Jalen Reed. A.J. Dillon has been a rushing machine, especially versus Kansas City last week. I mean, he was
I want your
everywhere
opinion
on the
because
ground.
I'm sure he's making a lot of money. Do you think it's time to move on from Aaron Jones?
I mean, you might have to because I mean he's not been healthy. And look, I like Aaron Jones a lot. But the problem with the Packers front office the past couple of years is that they've put money in the wrong spots. And one of them has been Aaron Jones. And honestly, that's what kind of ticked off Aaron Rodgers, where that money could have been used for a second receiver compared with Devontae Adams. And instead, Aaron Jones got the money, and he either A, does not perform, or B, he's banged up. So that's an example of that Rodgers frustration before he left. But at the same time, yeah, I think you might have to because AJ Dillon has been so good. He's been so strong. And
Yeah.
I mean, every time I turn around, he's making rushing attack after rushing attack, and he's picking up like 9 yards almost every almost every run.
Yeah.
So he's just been so strong. And not just the offense. Packers defense has really impressed me. Kenny Clark, Rashawn Gary's been an absolute beast, getting sack after sack against Mahomes, against Goff, against so many other quarterbacks.
Yep.
This front seven has been so strong. And on top of that, without Jair Alexander, Jonathan Owens, Darnell Savage, this secondary has also been sensational.
Yep.
So I'm just very impressed with the Packers right now. And my Packers are going to steamroll and destroy your New York Giants with good old Tommy DeVito. And the mother can make his bed. He can, make sure, his cleats are all cleaned up, and Tommy has a nice shower, and he brushed his teeth well, and his hair is all gelled up smooth. But Rashad Gary is going to destroy him. So there's a lot of cleaning that Mama DeVito's going to have to do after this Packers defense completely wipes Tommy DeVito with the off the floor, basically. So give me my Packers, baby. They're going to have a great game, and they're going to win another contest.
Look,
Let's go.
as much as it pains me to say,
Yep.
I think you guys are gonna win this game. As much as I've jokingly said to you over calls that the Giants are gonna win out, even beating the Eagles twice. I have to be
You're nuts.
realistic. I have to be
Nope.
realistic here, and I'm gonna go with the Packers just so I don't look like a jackass on my podcast. So, yeah, I just overall look. There's only so much that Tommy DeVito and Saquon Barkley could do. I will say Jalen Hyatt, the rookie wide receiver for the Giants, has looked very impressive these last couple weeks. He's actually really stepped up as the main guy. So that's one big thing for the Giants. If that kid could continue to do what he's done so far in the next couple of seasons, that would go a long way. But for you guys, if AJ Dillon keeps this up, Jordan Love keeps this up, all those guys keep it up, that'll be a huge thing for you guys. And I do think you guys will be a playoff team. You guys will move to 7-6 after this. Romeo Dobbs, Reed, all those guys have looked so good for you guys, and I'm not gonna doubt those guys. So 100% Packers move to 7-6, and you guys put an end to the Giants' miserable season probably this week. So, yeah, Packers by far. We move in though, Alex. Last Monday night game. Uh, Luckily, I know you had to go soon, so this works out perfectly. It's going to be the steamroll game of the week. We got Titans Dolphins. What do you?
All right. All right. That's it. Goodbye. That's it. Jason, I'll make this short and sweet. Miami. That's it. I mean, Tua's going to go off. Tyreek Hill, the run game. We talk about this Dolphins team every week with how good their offense is. And their defense with Jalen Ramsey this year especially is just getting better. I mean, this is not a regular necessary conversation to have. So just go with the Dolphins, and if the Dolphins don't lose, then that's a problem. But the Titans are going to get embarrassed on Monday Night Football. That's it. That's it.
Yeah.
Just simple. Simple. Goodbye.
This is gonna be an ass kicking game. They're just gonna get pummeled here. Look, Yes, Derrick Henry's been alive a little bit. Of course, as my fantasy football season is over with my now 3-10 team, Derrick
Wow.
Henry finally wakes up, pulls his head out of the dirt and says, I want to score some touchdowns. Now when it doesn't matter for me. But yeah, he's the only thing these last couple weeks that has been going really well for them. They blew another game. They looked pretty good to start, and then they blew that game. The Dolphins are just incredible. I could totally. I think the Dolphins are going to put up 40 points on them. Well over 100 yards for Tyreek. Tyreek's on his way to a 2,000-yard season. I don't even think this game's close. Do you even think the Titans put up 15 against them?
Maybe not. I wouldn't be shocked, honestly. I mean, who knows? They might not even put up 10.
Yeah,
So, look, I mean, we'll see how it goes. We'll see what happens. But regardless, Dolphins are going to steamroll the Titans in this
yeah,
game, and it'll be a very ugly ending to this week
yeah.
of NFL football.
Look,
Yep.
look, and before we end, I know you have 1 minute or whatever. So I do want to end with what we usually say that look, there's some ugly games this week, but there's also some really good ones. And as we said, we're week 14, down to the final 5 weeks of football. Some of these games for these teams are so important. Some team seasons are pretty much going to be done after this week. Some teams could move into a playoff spot. Some teams say the Giants, if they win somehow by some miracle, they're suddenly a game out. Um, the Bears win against the Lions, they're suddenly potentially a game out. There's so many possibilities with this. So look, there's some ugly games, but some of those ugly games also have big implications. So we'll see. It should be a good week of football. It's significantly better than last week. Last week was probably one of the worst weeks we've had to talk about here on this podcast. It was a really not a great week of football. I mean, look, the games actually ended up being a little better than we expected, but they were not not great games. So, but yeah, uh, good good week 14, and it should be excited to see what happens to some of these teams trying to stay in the playoff race. Thank you guys so much for watching our week 14 NFL predictions, guys. If you guys are new here, drop a sub. If you liked the video, leave a like. Drop a comment as well with your guys' predictions for the week. Would love to hear what you guys think. And yeah, couple weeks left of the season, guys. So a couple more videos of this. I hope throughout the season you guys have enjoyed. We've had a great time with it. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Peace out, YouTube.